Everyone, that one Georgia driver coming right back at you. I know it's been a while, been quite a while since I've made a video. What have I been up to? Well, still driving trucks, that's for sure. I've been at it for about 4.5 years. If you don't know anything about me, I originally was in the medical field for about 6 years, all through COVID, and I needed to get something better. So I started doing trucking. Started with Werner, worked for them for a couple of months, I think 7 or 8 months, and then from Werner I went to TCW. I went back to Werner, and then from there I did Florida Rock and Tank Line, and then Florida Rock and Tank Line I did Arka Express. Arka Express I went to Whitestone. I went back to Werner, did that for almost a year, and then I went back to Whitestone because I got a better offer. And then Whitestone I did Sheppard, which is the company that I was with just recently, and I left Sheppard, and now I'm going to another company, and we'll discuss that later. So why am I making this video? Couple of reasons. First, I wanted to see if I can get back at this whole video thing, kind of build a community, a tight-knit community. People kind of know what's going on, the truth about the trucking industry. I just want people to know, do the research, and actually talk to a person that was in their shoes, talk about different companies that they're looking at, what to ask, and don't always believe what the recruiter says. And sometimes recruiter says one thing and it's better, sometimes it's worse. So without further ado, I have all the numbers, almost all the numbers, so I did my research. Research including when I first started driving trucks back in January of 2022 to just a couple weeks ago when I stopped with Sheppard. I put my 2 weeks in with Sheppard, and I started with another company. Sheppard decided they did not want me to finish out my 2 weeks, so it was essentially just a 1 week. They told me to turn my truck in, and this past week has essentially just been me doing stuff around the house before I go on to this other company. So without further ado, let me actually just share with you a couple of things I've been doing around the house. So this is my backyard. Got a couple of things. It's not the prettiest of backyards, but it's a decent sized backyard. One thing I'm most proud of is a little burn pit right there. So I spent most of the week that I've been home digging out that burn pit because it's starting to fill up. I raked and mowed the yard. It's the garden that my grandmother has to keep her busy. But yeah, it's essentially I pressure washed the house. You can see that it's a little bit cleaner. It used to look like that. It used to look like that. So if it's any indication, boom. And a brand new roof. Literally brand new, a couple weeks old. I didn't do it, but a company did it, and that's the biggest reason as to why I left Sheppard for this company coming up. So without further ado, first job, Werner. Going into the trucking industry, Werner Enterprises. Would I recommend them to new drivers? I would say yes and no. When I was into it, well, I'm kind of all over the place right now. If I was going back into trucking, would I do it? Starting out, no. I would go to a company that pays for trucking, pays for your schooling, everything like that, contract. I would go through them, work for them for about a year, year and a half, and then I would have had all my schooling paid off. With Werner, yes, they do technically. Oh, hold on, this is cute. Let me see if I can catch it. Oh no, I didn't catch it. Okay, little birds in the birdhouse. Anyways, with Werner, they do pay for your schooling, but it has to be while you're working with them, and they pay it, and then as soon as you leave, they stop paying it, and then the rest is on you. They don't give you a big forgiveness payout. It's literally like they pay I think it's 150, 200 bucks, something like that, every month, and then you work for them for about 2 years, and slowly it pays off. But they don't forgive or anything like that, as opposed to, let's just throw out Swift, for instance. You work for them for a year, and they forgive. That's at least what I heard. So, but why did I choose Werner? Well, starting out, I didn't want to do the whole lower 48. I heard Werner had a dedicated straight out of school. The cents per mile was actually a lot better than any other company that was offering me a job. And at the time, I really needed the money. So Werner was who I chose. I probably could have done a little bit more research, but it is what it is. Past is the past. But like I said, if I could change something differently, it would definitely be starting with another company. But let's go into the numbers. So the first go around, I worked with Werner for, let's see, from January the 1st of 2022 to June the 24th of 2022. So about 6 months, a little over 6 months. At the time, if I remember correctly, I was making 50 cents per mile. I was on the Southeast Home Depot account, so I worked North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and every now and then Tennessee. I didn't go into Kentucky or Virginia or anything like that. So I worked there from January the 1st to June the 24th the same year. I had a total of 22 paychecks since I was there. If I did the math correctly, it was 22 paychecks, and my average pay was $692.58. Let's see. So my highest check with Werner, the first go around, I say first go around because I was with Werner for three stints. So my highest paycheck the first go around was $1,226.28, and my lowest check, this is excluding orientation, because you never really count orientation pay as your normal pay. It just doesn't make sense to do that. So my lowest check, not including orientation, was $81.11. So after Werner, I went to TCW. Now this is probably going to be a long-ish video. If you want to see in the comments exactly, like a little bit more in detail with different companies that I worked for, just let me know and I'll do that. TCW, Tennessee Commercial Warehouse. They haul containers, mostly containers, out of the ports. Since I lived near Savannah and Pooler, that's where I was stationed. It was a home daily account, slip seat, and I hauled from the ports and hauled all over within a 150-mile radius, up to Atlanta, Augusta, Macon, Columbia, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, that general area. I worked for them for about 3 months. I worked for them from June the 24th of 2022 to September 30th of 2022. From what I remember, I got paid 53 cents per mile. And my average pay, I had 13 paychecks. My average pay was $824.81. My total that I've made with all my checks combined while I worked there was $10,722.53. My highest paycheck was $1,191.99. My lowest paycheck with TCW was $700.44. My average, so TCW, since they are employee owned, they have an employee stock option program. So as soon as you start, literally day one, you get enrolled in the stock option program. And when you leave, they pay you out. So when I left for 3 months, I made $1,701.41. That's just 3 months of work. That's a separate check. And then from there, I went back to Werner. The reason I left Werner to go to Tennessee Commercial Warehouse, TCW, was because I bought into the whole propaganda of your second job should be better than your first job. I heard I got talked into by a person that was on the field about TCW, and he said, oh, it's going to be a whole lot better than Werner. The pay is going to be a whole lot better than Werner. Oops. So, let me go back to my average for Werner. My average pay was $692. For TCW, my average pay was $824. Now, my second go around with Werner, I worked with Werner for, sorry, I got these flashcards and they're starting to get all mixed up. I went back to Werner September 30th of 2022 to September 22nd of 2023, so almost a year. I had a total of 26 paychecks with them, because they should be every week. No, I'm sorry, I had 47 paychecks with them, coming out to a total of $43,531.95. Total were 47 paychecks, averaged out to $926.21. Now, my highest paycheck with them was $1,408.03. My lowest paycheck with them was $144.82. And I left Werner again. So let me just go back. So someone said that TCW pays a whole lot better than Werner. The second go around with Werner, they bumped me up to 55 cents per mile because I was experienced, quote unquote experienced. My average check with Werner, the second go around, was, if I could find it again, sorry, my average paycheck the second go around was $626.21. With TCW was $824. So it's not always better, and sometimes if you stay, you'll make a whole lot more money. So that was my second go around. Werner, I left Werner because people said, oh well, the money is in the fuel hauling industry. So I said, okay, let me haul fuel. And technically it was a little bit better. So I left Werner to go with Florida Rock and Take Line, hauling fuel, gasoline, diesel, that kind of stuff. I worked with them from September September 22nd to December 22nd. So a short time as well. From what I remember, I made about, you made percentage. I think it was 25 to 30%, but I can't remember. It's been too long since I thought about them. I had a total of 15 paychecks. Average, my total paycheck from working with them was $14,418.55. My highest paycheck was $1,374.26. My lowest paycheck was $677.98. So out of the 15 paychecks that I had, my average pay was $961.24. Now, the switch from Werner to Florida Rock, was it worth it? Yes and no. I worked longer hours, I worked overnight, and I hauled a fairly dangerous object, as in hauling fuel. You had to pay way more attention. I did honestly like working for Florida Rock. If the pay was a little bit better, I would probably still be working there, because it was a good job. I liked it. It got me into shape and all that stuff. But if you think about it, my average check the second go around with Werner was $926.21. My average paycheck with Florida Rock when I switched was $961. So yeah, it was an increase of about $40 a paycheck. It adds up, but still, I wouldn't really say it was worth it. Now, from there, I really wanted to get out of Florida Rock and go back to Werner, but I wanted to go back to the Home Depot account. The first two times I wanted to go to the Southeast Home Depot account. I couldn't do it. It wasn't opening up, so I said, okay. One company that I did see while I was working with Werner a lot was Arka Express. I could say a lot about Arka Express. I won't, but I can. Both good and bad. So with Arka Express, I worked for them December 22nd of 2023 to February 9th of 2024. Now, if you know anything, like if you notice a pattern, some of these companies I stay with for about 2 or 3 months. Hey, you can really tell everything about a company for about 2 or 3 months of working there. I know what I want. Majority of what I want is an honest paycheck. I want to be able to go there, make a decent living, pay my bills. Once I can do that, I'm set. I'm golden for the amount of work that I feel like I'm contributing. So I went from Florida Rock, I went to Arka Express. Now, if you work at Arka, or if you're thinking about working for Arka, know that their company name is Arka Express. However, the company that their name, or their settlement name, when they bill you and give you, not bill you, but when they give you your paychecks, is going to be under Blue Transfer LLC. I didn't know this, so when I saw that a couple of times on my check, I was like, what in the world? But it's Arka Express because it's a Ukrainian-based company. I had 8 paychecks when I worked for them. My average pay was $881.45. I made about 50 cents per mile. It was about 50, 53, something around there. I can't remember, cents per mile. My total that I earned for them was $7,051.62. My highest paycheck I got was $1,398.49. My lowest paycheck was $275.44. I don't know if that was home time or not. I know sometimes you had some good weeks and sometimes you had your bad weeks. But yeah, $475.44. Now, why did I leave Arka Express? There were some times where I was making some decent money, but a friend told me about. Actually, no. I was on Facebook in the Arka yard, and I was just scrolling. I wasn't really looking at any job or looking for any job or anything like that. But as I was scrolling, I saw an advertisement for a company called Whitestone Transportation, and they haul livestock. And I've always wondered what it would be like to haul livestock. And everyone tells me livestock pays better. It does. It pays a lot better. Not like, you know, $10,000 better, but it pays better. So I put in an application. Within maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, they called me back and set up an interview and all that stuff. And then next thing you know, I didn't even put in 2 weeks notice for Arka Express. I just ran 2 more loads, and then if you notice on this video, on this channel where it says a midnight drive to Purina, that was actually my last load. I took a load from Atlanta down to Florida, and then it was Arcadia, Florida, to Walmart. They rejected one pallet, and then I took a load going all the way. I took that pallet going all the way back to my house. Spent maybe a day or two at the house, and then I went back to Atlanta to drop that return pallet. So that video was actually my last load. Me pulling in and bobtailing back into that spot at the terminal, that was actually the last time I was at Arka. That next morning I got a rental car, loaded the rental car up with all my stuff, and I left. And I turned everything in. I got a call from dispatch, and he asked me if I'm ready to go for another load. I said no, I quit. That's literally how it went. So Whitestone, I worked 2 stints at Whitestone. The first stint was from February the 9th of 2024 to August the 1st of 2024. So about 6 months I worked for Whitestone. Or a little bit more than 6 months, almost 7 months. It was a good company. I enjoyed it. I should never have left the second go around. Oh, my mustache is itching. I shouldn't have left the first go around, but I had 23 paychecks the first go around. I had 70 cents per mile with a couple other incentives. My total number of paychecks was 23 paychecks. Everything added up to about $27,530.64. My highest paycheck was $1,381.80. My lowest check was $1,008.86. So my lowest paycheck was higher than some of the other places. My average check was $1,196.98. Now, when I first saw my $1,381 that check, I was like, "Ooh, that's a lot of money," because they get paid every week. You had some good paychecks that were like that or around that, and then you had some paychecks that were about $1,000. So that was that. I left Whitestone. The biggest reason I left Whitestone, I would say, was because I was just getting tired. Working overnight. So Whitestone, you have to work with the season. So if it's summertime, you start your day a lot later, and if it's wintertime, you start your day a lot earlier. And when I mean start the day, I mean like the catch crew. You literally start your day at the farm. The catch crew loads you up. You go back to the distribution or the processing center, and depending on if you have another farm to get to or not, you can either stay at the processing plant, or you have to go to the farm, depending on how much time you have and what your next farm is. But 9 times out of 10, you're driving overnights. Your sleep schedule is very sporadic. Sometimes you only sleep for 4 or 5 hours in a 24-hour period. Even though they say, well, didn't you get sleep at the farm? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So your sleep schedule is very sporadic. And that wore me out in 7 months. Paid good, but I couldn't do it anymore. So I went back to Werner. Let me go back to my Werner. So the second go around with Werner, I worked for them August the 1st of 2024 to October the 24th of 2025. So about a year and 2 months I worked with Werner the second go around. That goes to show you that I do have the ability to work for a company longer than 2 months. And I didn't mind it. I honestly didn't mind it because my dispatch, she was really good. My fleet manager was really, really good on top of everything, gave me some good miles. With Werner, the third go around with Werner, I had a total of 65 paychecks. My total number that I made with Werner the third go around was $66,383.29. My average with Werner was $1,021.28 the second go around, and this is all take home. This isn't gross, this is take home. My highest paycheck with Werner, mind you, this was an extraordinary week, was $1,913. This is no bonus. This is nothing like that. This is because Werner, what they do is they give you, after your year, they give you, I think, what your average mile is, and they give you on that check. So it was $1,913.78 was my highest paycheck. My second highest paycheck I got was $1,645.16. The third go around. My lowest paycheck was $59.22. So seeing that, I had some really high highs with Werner and I had some really low lows with Werner. Now, what made it so high was, I think, is because I still worked the Southeast for Home Depot. So what I did is I think that was a check where I went from North Carolina. It was, I think, Concord, North Carolina, or Kannapolis, North Carolina, something around there. I went all the way down to Lake City. Was it Lake City? No, it was Lake Park, Georgia. And then from Lake Park, Georgia, I went to Locust Grove, Georgia, and from Locust Grove, I went to Houston, Texas. I went down to West Laco, Texas. I went back all the way up to, it was either Lake Park, Georgia, or Locust Grove. I can't remember, but that was that one check. And when I tell you I booked it, I mean I booked it. All the stars aligned, and it was a good check. That's the only reason I remember that check. So I left Werner again to go back to Whitestone for the second stint. This second stint was October the 24th of 2025 to April 10th of 2026 of this year. So I worked there for about another 6 months. My total number of paychecks working the second time was 23 paychecks, for an average of $1,234.18. Total I made was $28,386.15. My highest paycheck with them was $1,697.67. My lowest paycheck was $855.55. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes the live haul pays really, really well, and sometimes it pays almost next to nothing. And it started to get to me. I was like, you know what, this nighttime driving, it's really getting to me. I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm not old, but I'm not as young as I used to be. So I say, you know what, let me find something to where I can be home every day. I can get some sleep. I can sleep in and still make decent money. I came across this company called Sheppard. They said 30% of every load that I get is what I'll be making. Now I want to tell you, sometimes 30%, sometimes the percentage pays a lot better than cents per mile. Sometimes cents per mile is a lot better than percentage, and I'll tell you why. Sheppard, they promise 30%, but you don't know. Are they being honest and holding back? Are they taking money off the top and then paying you the 30% from money that they already took off the top? So for instance, let's say a load is paying $2,000. Are you getting 30% of $2,000? or they taking maybe $200 off and then giving you $800, 30% of $800. You don't know unless you get the rate con. And Howard Sheppard, you have a struggle getting the rate con. They were like, oh, don't you trust us? I'm like, I want to see what I'm making. So I was only there for 12 checks, from April 10th of 2026 to July 24th of 2026. I put my 2 weeks notice in. Every company that I worked for, I put my 2 weeks notice in, minus Arka Express. Every company that I worked for that I put my 2 weeks notice in accepted my 2 weeks notice. I worked out my 2 weeks notice, and they let me go on to my other company. Howard Sheppard was the only company out of my entire working career, not just trucking, but my entire working career, where I put my 2 weeks notice in, and they only had me work the last week. So keep that in mind. If you put your 2 weeks in, they might just say go home. They might work you your 2 weeks, or they might just work you a week. It all depends. I worked for 12 paychecks. Total number that I made was $12,824.65. The highest paycheck I got was $1,202.17. The lowest paycheck I ever got was $832.86. Average I got was $1,068.67. Now, all that being said, 30 minutes in, what company am I going to? Well, you'll just have to wait. You'll have to wait till the next video. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Whether it's better or not, I've done some praying about it. I've done some research about it. I've talked to people in the company, a couple people of the drivers. I wanted to go to Estes Express. I put in an application for Estes Express. I waited, I want to say 4 or 5 weeks, because some people were saying it takes a while for them to get to your application, because the entire time the application said in progress, or it said under consideration. For 4 weeks, under consideration. And I was praying about it, and then I ran across a company called Crete Carrier Corp, CCC, or Crete. Their average pay, I don't know. I haven't started working there yet. But they said they're going to start me out at 68 cents per mile. But they said that's based on experienced companies and stuff like that. Well, they called me back about a couple days after everything was approved, and they said, you know what? We're going to bump you up to 70 cents per mile. Not bad. Okay, so 70 cents per mile, that's after all their raises and everything. The reason why they bumped me up from 68 to 70 was because a couple more of my jobs came in and was authorized. They said I have a potential to go up even further than that. So, for instance, if more stuff comes back and they want to give me more money, it can go up to 71 or 72 cents per mile, I think up to 73. And let's say I worked there for about 6 months, and it comes to find out I was supposed to be making 72 as opposed to 70. They would give me the 2 cents that I would have been making, and they would have prorated all that. So that level of honesty, I said, okay, that sounds like a good company. I'll be starting Monday of next week with this company. I'll be doing lower 48. That kind of makes me a little nervous. I've never done lower 48 before, but I can handle it. Working for Whitestone, I've worked in the snow. I've hauled livestock. With livestock, it shifts constantly. It's not, regardless if you're hitting the brakes or not, you have to take turns a little bit more smooth. You have to worry about your routing a lot more, stuff like that. So with Whitestone, I've been through some curious situations, because certain farms that you go to with Whitestone, you can get stuck, or you can have a perfectly fine day where everyone else is getting stuck and you're perfectly fine. So it's really about planning your form of attack. So Whitestone, that's one reason I enjoyed working for Whitestone, is it taught me a lot about pre-planning and truck planning and stuff like that. But with Crete, they're saying their average check or their average mileage is anywhere from 2,500 to 3,200 miles a week. I could probably push 3,000 a week, maybe more if I really push myself. My normal hours of operation, and I'm gonna let them know my normal hours of operation, please work within this like time frame, is anywhere from 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning to about 2 to 3 in the afternoon, 4 o'clock at the latest. I really do not like to go after 5 o'clock. Reason being is because when I was on the road, I learned that it might be a little bit different since I've been on the road with all these foreigners and stuff like that being taken off the road. But what I have noticed is sometimes after 5 o'clock, some areas, you're not finding truck parking anywhere. Good luck. you're not finding truck parking anywhere. So that's probably my biggest concern, is the truck parking. And during the winter, I'm not a huge fan of driving in the snow. I don't really like driving in the snow. But I heard that Crete is one of those companies where if it gets too bad, they'll tell you to pull over, find a safe haven, and shut down until it gets better. And they'll tell you when to start driving. So I've done some research about them. I'm hoping that it's a good company, because a couple of things is, I heard that their average paycheck is anywhere from, if I remember correctly, was $1,800 to $2,100, and that's before taxes. So judging that my paycheck on the low end, if I do everything I'm supposed to on the low end, should be about $1,400 take home. And that's, I'm a single man, no kids, no dependents, filing separately all by myself, no dependents. I own my own house, so that's a tax write-off right there. So all my taxes should be about $300, around maybe $350 a paycheck. Look at that. Sorry. I just wanted to share that. That's the cutest thing. Yeah, we have those bird houses, and blue jays, they always fly in and out of there every season. When the blue jays get big enough and they fly out and they abandon it, I always clean it out and make it ready for a new nest next season. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to video more and more about Crete. I've been wanting to do it for every other company, but I just completely forgot about it until just now. But yeah, there you go, guys. If you want to know anything more about any other company that I work for, let me go over again. Werner, TCW, Florida Rock, Arka Express, Whitestone, or Howard Sheppard, or even Crete. If you want to know about anything from any of those companies, just let me know. I'll be more than willing to share anything. If anybody wants to interview about any of those companies, let me know. I'm more than willing. I'm an open book and I'm an honest person. And I'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not a biased person by any means. I'll tell you straight up 100%. If you don't want to listen to this whole thing, feel free to skip around. I'll try to put timestamps where certain companies are that I'm talking about. For the most part, I'm not super fancy when it comes to editing, so it's pretty much going to be like mostly uncut stuff. I might edit it down a little bit, but if I can get to the proper subscribers, I think it's 50 subscribers, I'll do some live streams. But that is what it is. I know with Crete, it's one of those where I believe you can film while you're driving. You just can't interact with the camera or anything like that. So I might do some voiceovers. I'll put up a dash cam like I did with Arka, and I'll do some voiceovers like, hey, this is this little thing, this is what I was thinking when I was going through there, that kind of thing. I could do some of that. But just let me know what you want. I can kind of go from there. Alright guys, if you have any questions, feel free. Peace.